Bonjour.
Bonjour. Hi, everyone. We're glad to be here again at Flutter Connection. And welcome to our talk, A New Journey to Continuous Delivery with Flutter. Oh, you want the clicker maybe, François. So today I'm with my fellow staff engineer, François, and I'm Adrien. We're from SNCF Connect and Tech, and we are both Flutter enthusiasts.
And just in case, if you don't know our application, you can read more on the showcase we are very proud to now have on the Flutter website, thanks to the Flutter team. So it's large-scale application, and we won't say more about the application. What will we cover today, Adrien?
Today, various topics about CD from building to testing, how to work with doors, some innovative way to ship with Shorebird, and finally, feature flags.
So let's start our journey. It will be a long journey to continuous delivery and what it means for mobile. And to start, let's say we have 10 years 10 years of state of DevOps reports. Since for 10 years, the DevOps Research Assessment Group, which is now backed by Google, has been collecting data about tens of thousands of organizations and teams. And what have we learned? We have learned that there's a strong correlation between the success of these organizations, including their business performance, and their delivery, the way they deliver value. In particular, four major metrics. I know most of you must know them. They are now called the DORA metrics. They are the time it takes to deploy to go to production, the deployment frequency, the failure rate, and the time it takes in case of failure to recover. And as an example, if you're in the elite group, the best performers, they deploy. It takes them less than 1 day to deploy. Sorry, they do it several times a day. The failure rate is less than 5%, and in case of a problem, it takes them less than 1 hour to recover. So the question is, how do you achieve this when you're a mobile developer and a Flutter developer? Is it even achievable? Because it's not about coding all day long and maybe at night too, with much coffee. But we all know we have many things to do. In particular, on a large-scale application with millions of users, we have many things to build, to package, to test in order to go to production. So how do you do that? That's the question for today. And we'll start with the basics, which is not to write too much code and to build and do everything automatically and as fast as possible. The first good news is you're using Flutter. So most of your code is shared, is cross-platform. That's really good news. On our application, it's 90% of our code which is shared. So we spend less time coding it, maintaining it. And then we have to build and package everything to production. So many of you must use GitHub, I guess, for building. So what can we do to build with Flutter rapidly?
We also use heavily GitHub because we have some packages that you can see here, and there is a lot of action that are available for a classical flow to deliver your apps, like the linting building for Ubuntu, macOS, etc. So you can give a try to GitHub, and SNCF we are more on GitLab.
Our main application is on GitLab, and you just seen the plugins we've open sourced on GitHub. So in GitLab, you have many tools to build and package and operate and do everything. You have many great tools available. Of course, we won't have time to cover all of them, but we can focus on some aspects like linting.
Yes, you should for auto format and check that you have formatted your code in your CI. You can make static analysis, and you should leverage tools like Husky and control in CI that everything complies with your rules. Also, in your journey to build an app, you will probably use different kind of code generation for HTTP client, for example. Don't forget to check that CodeGen has been run to avoid possible runtime exceptions in production.
Also, some note about golden. Obviously, we love golden tests, and we use them for many many things. And so, like probably everyone else, we use them to detect regressions about layout. But we also leverage them for accessibility testing to test the semantics, the rendering. We had a very good talk this morning about accessibility. And maybe you've seen us 2 years ago about the carbon footprint of developing our applications. We also use the golden test to verify our application renders well on if you double the size of the text or if you're on an old device with a small screen, verify everything renders correctly. So many things to do with the golden tests.
Also, we've discussed in previous talks the importance of the size of your app at Flutter Heroes. You should also be sure to configure well caches in your CI for Gradle, also for pub. Use the offline modes. Don't forget to use the no pub flags in your CIs to optimize the speed. Also, you should optimize your assets. You can remove eventually useless ABIs on Android when you don't need it for your customers. And you can also hunt if you need with special Dart commands tasks that are taking too much time in your builds.
And it's probably a good idea to test the size of your app and do it regularly. Even put it that in your pipeline, test that automatically in your pipeline, so you don't have a bad surprise when you want to deploy to stores and you just discover the size of your app has increased way too much.
We also run hundreds of end-to-end tests. There is different tools for that. We use Appium with Flutter. It's working really great. You should also take a look at tools like Patrol, who now has hot reloading and native interactions. And every day new tools are coming with AI to help you testing your application. Also, you should measure your code quality. Like we explained with the DORA metrics, there is a link to this. You should measure also and check the vulnerabilities of your app. So you have checkmarks for that. You have tools like SonarCube for Dart and tools more dedicated to Flutter like DCM. I think Majid mentioned it just before.
And if you do all of that in your pipeline, you might be thinking, is it possible to keep an acceptable time for my pipeline if I do all of that? So the answer is, okay, it takes a lot of effort regularly to optimize and modularize and optimize everything, but you can have a good pipeline performance doing all that.
Yes, after 3 years of adding new features, our CI still works. We are at 22, 21 minutes of build time. Thanks Abdelaziz for working on our CI. And we went from 3K to 10K tests. They are splitted in 5 jobs and running approximately in 15 minutes.
Just to remind, we have a. I don't know if it's still the biggest Flutter app in Europe, but it was. Maybe must be one of the biggest. So it's really a large scale application with millions of users. So it's a big responsibility. So we have to do many things and test many things in our pipeline, and it's a challenge to have something still performant, but it's possible. And now let's talk about the stores because obviously that's where we want our features to go to the stores, the app stores. And as you know, as you may remember, the stores were born, the two main stores, they were born in 2008. And year after year, months after months, they had more and more features and great things coming to these big platforms. So they do many things for us, and that's really great. But also, we had more and more rules and policies and guidelines and things to do in order to still comply to the store. So let's focus on the reviews, the validations first.
Yes, now we have a lot of interesting features in the review process. For example, you will have information about accessibility. if you miss something on Android, if you miss a label on a button about performances, etc. And for example, this week the Play Store warned us about edge-to-edge configuration that we missed for Android 15, which is enabled since Flutter 3.7. So they are giving you a lot of information for all device accessibility performance. Also, you have to think about your rollout strategy. You can fully customize it in Android. You can choose the deploy percentage you want, and you have to find the good balance between the user's volume you have on your application, so you can analyze crashes on your app. Just think to not roll out to 100%, or you won't be able to stop the release propagation. And on iOS, there is a similar rollout strategy on a week basis. Other things you should think about is if you need to force an upgrade, always try to keep access to vitals features for your customers. In our case, we always give access to tickets, to train tickets, even if we need to force an upgrade.
So as we've seen, much complexity in dealing with the stores and many options, many things to consider, many things to master, things that take time. And hopefully we have tools to help us dealing with the stores and not having to do everything twice with the both APIs from the stores. So if you start with the stores, don't hesitate to have a look at the continuous delivery with Flutter web page on the Flutter site. There are much information about great tools to help you integrate with the stores. One of them, you probably know it, use it. It's Fastlane, which is very good tool to programmatically deal with the stores and put all your options there. But at this point, you might be thinking, and like we were thinking at the beginning of last year, is the App Store, is the Play Store the limit for continuous delivery, to deploy faster? Because it takes time. I have to roll out. I have to wait for the validation and everything. So, is it possible to achieve continuous deployment, continuous delivery several times a week because of the stores? And progressively, last year, we discovered other options, other ways to think about releasing value to our users. And that's what we want to share with you. One of these solutions is to use the traditional beta mechanisms, which is to progressively roll out your application to specific groups of users.
Yes, for example, on the Android store, if you leverage the power of the alpha channels or the internal channels, you can bypass some validation, so you can have feedback quicker. And there is similar mechanism on the iOS side with TestFlight.
And for our application, SNCF Connect, we even implemented our own custom beta mechanism, which is we have upcoming features available in the app. And if you're enrolled, it's for internal users and community users from our community program, you can have access to beta features and choose which one you are ready to test and ready to give us feedback about. How does it work? We use the cloud database, it's Dynamo, to put all the states of the features. It's served by our back for front and the Flutter application through our custom SDK to the BFF. It loads the features, it serves them, it stores them in the session so that the navigation remains consistent during your navigation. So it's a good way to have more feedback from specific users on your features. Another solution is Shorebird. Shorebird and the code push approach. And it's not the only solution because you should stay for the next talk by Mangueras. He will tell you everything there is to know about over-the-air updates.
Yes.
Shorebird and code push, it's interesting. Why? Because it's still, I just checked yesterday, it's still the most wanted feature on the Flutter repository. Auto update, code push. What is code push, Adrien?
Well, it's a different way to push patches to production for your application without going through a store update. And React Native is a framework that has developed a lot this concept with Microsoft, and now Flutter has also this feature with Shorebird.
And still you comply with the stores?
Good question, François. To be compliant with the store about the permission to change interpreted code in production, Flutter needed to be forked, giving Shorebird with an additional Dart compiler, an interpreter, and a custom engine to load patches. And so it looked like this. You ask the Shorebird server if there is a patch. If yes, it downloaded. And at the next boot, you will boot on the patched version of your app. If there is a fail to boot on this patch, it will roll back and boot on the original version.
We don't have time for a demo, but if you just want a look at what it looks like, on the left, you got a typical Shorebird command to create a patch, to possibly stage it. And on the right, you have the UI to promote your patches. And it looks simple, right? There
Yeah.
is something else to know?
Maybe we could add that if you already use other update mechanism, you should think about how you mix them. If your user already has the latest Shorebird patch, he may not need to have the pop-up to update his application.
If you want to know more, don't hesitate to look at the really great talk from Felix Angelov or this nice guy on the right and next to me, who proposed a talk about Shorebird at DevOps France in French last year. Also, we have several repositories for samples of integration with various tools. And at this point about Shorebird, the question is, it seems it is a great tool. Is it a great tool for you? What do you think?
Well, you
It
can
depends.
depends,
The answer is always it depends.
but you can push patches instantly in production. What you need to think about is the complexity overhead for your ops teams. Also, it's a fork of Flutter. You have to mix with other update mechanism. And you have to think also about the fact that you will pay at the patch installation. So if you have a lot of devices of customers, you will pay for each patch installation.
And the last step on our journey is something you probably everybody uses, feature toggles and feature flags. So, but we'll see that we can use them another way or multiple. There are multiple manners to use them. At the beginning of last year, early 2024, we had our major release every week. It took us several days to branch out. It's trunk based. We are on a monorepo with the web, the mobile, the infrastructure, the back, everything. It took us 1 day to branch out, several days to test everything, then to deploy. Then we had the stores rolling out from 1 day to 1 week to deploy to everyone. And it was a challenge to release a feature for the mobile and the web at the same time with that. So we wanted to go faster. And at some point, we realized what we needed was safety more than speed, or safety to be able to go faster to production. So we introduced a new kind of feature toggles between the regular feature toggles, the circuit breaker, the kill switches we already had in our application, long-lived circuit breakers, and A/B test and variants. We were already using them to test and experiment with different to compare different versions of the product. Stay with us. There will be a talk about A/B testing by Alicia. So that's great to have all the topics covered today. Our new type of toggle, we just call them activation toggles or maybe release toggles. They are quite different. We don't use them the same way. Technically, they are feature toggles like all the feature toggles, but we introduced them for our dozens of developers or hundreds of developers, if I take the web and back developers too, for every change where it's possible. Obviously, an upgrade of the Flutter version, you won't put a toggle on it. But most of the changes we make to the code base, we can put a feature toggle on it. Then we test we test everything twice, because we test when it's disabled and when it's enabled, and we push every change disable, even a fix, even a bug fix, because sometimes you push a bug fix and you break something else. So even a bug fix, we put a toggle on this, we deploy it disable, and then the activation happens later after the deployment time. And after some time in production, when it has proven stable, we can clean the toggle and remove everything. Otherwise, we would have hundreds and hundreds of toggles in the code. That would be uh, not great.
Yes, so to help us doing all that stuff, we've built some custom implementation with we are using autoroute for navigation. So we have an autoroute guard to stop navigating from forbidden rule hidden behind a feature flag. We have qubits dedicated for this. We have an SDK with an API with OBFF, local storage, etc. And so in this custom implementation, there is some complexity with streaming, asset storage, async and sync synchronization. So it takes some time to build something resilient, and we needed more tools to manage all these flags.
It's not so trivial. And when you do it and you try to do it the right way, it's much effort to have a real SDK and resilience. Hopefully, we have also great developers in the team, like Mathieu Lechowski, who gave us this nice dashboard inside the application. When we are developing, we can switch the toggles and check everything. Um, that's really great. And at the end of the year, the result was, or the result is now, we have hundreds of these activation toggles in production. We could move from one major release per week to 3 and more per week, which is really great for us. It felt impossible 1 year ago. Uh, it's the monorepo, so it includes the web, the backend, and everything. Obviously, we don't push to the stores 3 times per week. It's still one publish per week. But now the features, we can release them to the users over all the week, feature by feature, more continuously. And it's easier to synchronize the web and the mobile release. We have less rollbacks in production, and we have less incidents. And when there's an incident activating something, a feature by itself, we can just disable it, and most of the time it's solved instantly. So it's really great for the production. It's really great for our users. Just disclaimer there, for the developers, it's it's kind of boilerplate code they have to add for each change, each bug fix or feature to have to add a toggle. It can be seen as a boilerplate, can be seen as a burden at the beginning. Obviously, it depends on the way you introduce the change to their routine, especially if you have many developers, and the tools you provide to the teams to do that. We were doing everything manually, with no new tool, and we realized, and we now realize, we need more tools to manage hundreds of feature flags. We just we just started looking at Firebase, obviously.
Yes, which have great features with remote config, and you can also track some keys in custom keys, but it's not adapted for feature flags for hundreds of feature flags. And we did not choose that path. We did not want to plug Firebase with our backends, but you can still use it for only front feature flags, and it's still a very good tool to monitor crashes and release and monitor release propagations.
And the good news is there are plenty of specialized feature management tools and platforms. You probably know some of them. Some of them are even open source, and there's the open feature standard to instrument your applications. We'll take LaunchDarkly as an example. When you use the LaunchDarkly feature management platform product, you get something which handles booleans, toggles, but also variations. So you can do A/B testing and product experiments. You get a UI to manage all your flags and get an history of who changed what. You get an SDK, a polyglot SDK for Flutter and all the main languages and platforms. And you get an API, a CLI, and various extensions for various tools. So if you look at a traditional, a classic use of the SDK, it starts by initializing a context, and you put everything you want about your user in the context. And then you just call the feature management platform to see if the rule is true or false. Here we added some call to Datadog to,
To track the activations.
yes. And we have time for a really, really short demo.
I think no. Yeah,
No,
no.
no.
We are not sure.
So we'll
Just to
explain
give
on the video.
yes, very quickly. We're just toggling a flag in LaunchDarkly, which is changing an image, and then we track this flag in Datadog, and we can see the level of propagation of this flag, which is in this case 50-50, if I remember
So
well.
you change the value, you commit some message with it, you see the result instantly, and possibly in your monitoring system, you also see what happens.
Yes.
You can do, in fact, many other things with the feature management tools. For example, to define your own workflows and pipelines of features, how you roll out your features, maybe introduce some manual validation and everything. That's the kind of features you get in a feature management platform. You can feed the feature management platform with your own metrics or integrate with your monitoring tools. This way, the feature management platform can serve your features depending on the metrics and roll out and roll back your features automatically as long as the metrics aren't degraded. So that's really, really cool, nice
Mm.
feature. And this year, with this extensive usage of feature flags and discovering the tools and everything we can do with these tools, uh, we just discovered we could do much more with the feature flags, the traditional feature flags. So we are now thinking not about personalizing our features for just for an environment, thinking about activating or disabling for an environment for everyone, but adding personalization depending on the device type, depending on business user segments, depending on the profiles, depending on, I don't know, the region, the weather. Maybe at the age of AI tomorrow, use AI to decide which features to serve to which user.
Mhm.
And that's progressively a different way of thinking about continuous delivery. Some people start to call that progressive delivery, like a natural evolution of continuous delivery, where you don't just think about deploying a bundle to all the users on an environment, and you focus more on the features. You can activate or deactivate them uh, feature by feature. And if you work in a large organization, instead of having the business and the technical teams working together to deploy and release at the best time for everyone, for the users, for the teams, then you can have the DevOps teams, the technical teams, uh, sticking with the continuous delivery and deploying as fast as possible disabled code to production, and having the business team possibly deciding to activate this feature for this user at this time. Totally separately from the deployment time. So it's a new way for us. It's a new way of thinking about releasing. We start wondering and thinking about when it's the best time to push an update for our users. Is it the best time for us or for the users? In some cases, it depends on your use cases. Um, Maybe it can even be dangerous to push an update to the UI at the wrong time for your users. In particular, if you're working on a mobility application, maybe used for driving or I don't know.
And it's also important to know well your users, so you can push them the new features. They will be the best time for us to use these new features.
And we're a bit late. It's time to conclude, and that will be it for us. We would like you to remember you can be fast and safe. Remember the DORA metrics. To achieve that, you have to be efficient and automate everything.
And you should also leverage the power of stores like the beta channels, the rollouts, try tools like Shorebird for code push, and dive into feature flags. and go beyond with progressive delivery. Think feature first for your users.
And that will be our last word. Thank you. A big thank you to Flutter Connection, to all the great speakers today, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.